guys, so today's video is on how to replace a clutch on a YFC 450. Today we are going to be replacing the clutch plates. We're gonna pull not only the clutch cover off, but this entire left side of the engine cover off, because we're also gonna be doing the water pump seals as well. So once we get the clutch cover off, we'll inspect the basket and make sure that the basket is still safe to operate with. If the clutch basket shows some heavy wear, we'll end up putting this on hold and replacing the clutch basket as well. For now, we have the clutch plates. I suspect that's the only thing that needs to be replaced. As far as the clutch, it's just slipping a little bit. The water pump seal is just to make sure everything's nice and tight there. And then finally, this is just the main gasket in the back. We're gonna replace that just to keep everything nice and tight, and it's good preventative maintenance. And first thing we're gonna do is get all the oil drained, the coolant drained. If you're not familiar with that, there's an engine oil plug right here, dead center of the motor, and then there's also at the bottom of this reservoir here. And forgive me, it's a little dirty here. I made sure I took some brake cleaner and cleaned up this part, because that's really all I'm gonna be working with today. But ideally this would be nice and pressure washed. I just kind of rushed in here to get it done. So either way, yep, there's a drain plug for this reservoir right at the bottom, and then there's a drain plug here. You want to get that drained. And then if you look here, there's a little triangle that indicates that this is the drain plug for the coolant. So you'll release that, and then the little spout right here will spew the coolant out. And you can also disconnect these lines, and of course this line right here to the motor, and all that coolant will drain down, and we'll get it flushed out and everything back together, fill it back up with oil and coolant, and then we will be ready to roll. First thing too, guys, is you want to make sure that this brake lever is removed. Also this channel that holds the rear brake line for the hydraulic brake line there. And then lastly, once you have all of that kind of out of your way, you'll see that you can get all these perimeter bolts on this left side of the motor pulled out, and you can bring the entire left engine cover off with the motor mounted in the quad. So we'll get rolling here, and here we go. All right, guys, so I just wanted to take a minute and let you guys know where we're at. We got the brake pulled back so we can access the entire engine cover. We got this channel where we can pull it back, so that way we can reach all of the perimeter bolts and end up pulling this entire right side engine cover off. So next we're going to be, now that we got the clutch cover off, we have the oil filter pulled out, and then we have the cap off of the water pump. I'm going to go ahead and start breaking all of these loose, pull that out so we can inspect the springs, and you'll also want to inspect the basket here as well to make sure there's no grooves in there. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm gonna go ahead and keep pulling it apart, and I'll jump back on and show you what it looks like with the entire cover off. All right, guys, so before you pull off the pressure plate here, just make sure that your clutch adjustments are totally free. So release all the pressure from the clutch. So after you get your adjustments totally backed out, you can begin to take off these spring-loaded 10 millimeters. So just be careful, there's a spring behind them. Other than that, this pressure plate will come off, and then you can start taking off the clutch plates. And when we do that, we will take a look at the actual basket. And right here, along this line of the basket, we're gonna be making sure that there's no grooves in the basket. And I'll get the video back rolling once we get to that point, so you guys can see the difference between a basket that's usable versus a basket that needs to be replaced. So now with the pressure plate off, you can see that there's already some signs of just a lot of heat, extreme heat. These clutches build up a ton of heat, and the burn marks will show on every spacer. So you can see on the spacer right here the difference in color, where it's just starting to get to that point where it's basically burning up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull off all of these plates, just keep them in the same order. They're trash. Once we get that off, we'll take a look at the actual fingers of the basket and make sure that they're not too grooved up, and we will go ahead and put the new clutch plates in. So with all the plates out, you can see the fingers of the basket, and you can actually see where each plate will cause an indentation in each one of these fingers here. Now, is this terrible? No. I would say the next time that the clutch is replaced, you could go back in with an entire clutch kit with the basket and everything, whether you want to go with Henson or if you want to go OEM. It just depends on what type of budget you have for the project, but ultimately this is going to be fine. These are the worst three. I spun the clutch where you could see it's significantly dented, but not enough to replace the entire basket. Just replacing the clutch plates alone are going to make a significant difference. So we'll go ahead and get those clutch plates installed now. And you'll just have to remember that there's a smaller, thinner ring that goes on first, or a smaller or thinner plate that goes on first. And then you would just go plate, spacer, plate, spacer, plate, spacer, plate, spacer, until you reach the end of the kit. And then pressure plate goes back on and you have successfully replaced the clutch plates. I will show you that everything is installed before I put the pressure plate back on. And I do want to note that I have soaked all of the plates, the new plates that I've ordered. They've been soaking for the past 30 minutes to an hour in just some AMSOIL 10W40. So it's good to make sure that they're lubed up first. We'll go ahead and get the new plates in and we'll jump back on. All right, guys, so it is good to note that when putting the spacers in, there's gonna be a kind of a beveled edge, and then there's gonna be a factory edge where it's just basically, you can feel a rough edge and you can feel a kind of like a beveled, tapered edge. It doesn't matter which way you put them in as long as they're all facing the same way. As you can tell, I have 2 plates and 1 spacer, and so I have the very first skinnier plate in there, and then I have a spacer, and then I have the second plate, and now I'm going in with the second spacer. And again, just if you're gonna have the rough edge facing out, that's fine. Just make sure all of them are facing out. All right, guys, so it went back together really good. Got everything back on. Whenever you tighten up all of your perimeter bolts and everything, just make sure you do it in kind of a cross pattern way. I think the torque settings, I did like 7.2. If you're wondering about the torque settings behind this clutch cover, like on the 10 millimeters for the spring valve, I think that's 5.8 if I remember correctly. So 5.8 on the 10 millimeters, and that hold the pressure plate on, and then around the whole perimeter and as well as the clutch cover itself, I did 7.2 on all of that. So lastly, once you get everything back together, of course, just put your coolant hoses back on and put your oil drain plugs back in, fill it up with oil, run it for a little bit, let it cycle it through, take it for a quick spin, and just make sure that clutch feels nice and good. But other than that, it's just a quick video on how to replace your clutch plates. All right, thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Peace out.